Well, Donald Trump is going to address the nation tomorrow night at 9 p.m. And it appears he will be announcing his surrender in his war in Iran after he made his own personal surrender as clear as he possibly could this evening.
Does Iran have to make a deal for the U.S. to end its operation in Iran? And have you spoken?
That is Donald Trump surrendering from the first objective he announced in his war 4 weeks ago, which was, remember, the words unconditional surrender. Those two words. Unconditional surrender, of course, means, as we saw at the end of World War II, the surrendering country officially signing the surrender agreement, in which then both Germany and Japan at the end of World War II agreed to never fire a shot at the United States of America again and give the United States of America, in effect, complete control over their countries for the foreseeable future in 1945. That's what unconditional surrender was and is. Donald Trump quickly backed off his objective of unconditional surrender at the beginning of his war, within the first few days of his war, and to completely incomprehensible objectives, if there were any, that no one waging Donald Trump's war could ever explain to anyone. And when, much to Donald Trump's surprise and shock and amazement, Iran did the obvious in closing the Strait of Hormuz and shutting down 20% of the world's oil shipments, as well as crucial helium shipments and other important shipments through the Strait, Donald Trump's new objective in his war became opening the Strait of Hormuz, that was closed only because of his war. Donald Trump kept threatening Iran with greater and greater versions of what he called obliterating Iran if Iran didn't open the Strait of Hormuz by a certain deadline, sometimes 2 days away, sometimes 5 days away. And as those deadlines approached, each one of them, Donald Trump, of course, as Wall Street expected and as Wall Street put it, chickened out. Wall Street is where the term taco was coined, meaning Trump always chickens out. And Donald Trump has, as Wall Street says, chickened out on every one of his ultimatums that he has issued to Iran in his war, including the one that he issued yesterday at 7:26 a.m. when Donald Trump said in writing for the world to see, if for any reason a deal is not shortly reached, which it probably will be, and if the Strait of Hormuz is not immediately open for business, we will conclude our lovely stay in Iran by blowing up and completely obliterating all of their electric generating plants, oil wells, and Karg Island, and possibly all desalinization plants. So there was Donald Trump threatening to commit war crimes by destroying life-sustaining civilian infrastructure. And he said he was going to do it immediately. That was his time frame, immediately. He said he was going to do it, quote, if the Hormuz Strait is not immediately open for business. For everyone else in the world, immediately means immediately. For Donald Trump, it means nothing because, as Wall Street knows, Trump always chickens out. So that was yesterday. The Strait of Hormuz has to be opened immediately. That was the objective, the full objective of Donald Trump's war yesterday. And this morning, when Donald Trump's Secretary of Defense was asked, quote, on the Strait of Hormuz, is opening the strait an essential objective? Pete Hegseth refused to answer the question in any way and wandered off talking about something else entirely. And then Donald Trump ended his day in a discussion with White House reporters after issuing a flagrantly unconstitutional and illegal executive order trying to seize control of mail-in balloting in American elections, which we will discuss later in this hour. Donald Trump said Iran doesn't have to do anything anymore. They don't have to do anything for him to end his war.
Does Iran have to make a deal for the U.S. to end its operation in Iran? And have you spoken?
As the stock market was sinking again today, Donald Trump desperately tried to get the word out through talks with individual reporters that he was going to end his war very soon. But when reporters got to question him this evening, he announced to the world that he was issuing his unconditional surrender on the opening of the Strait of Hormuz.
I think that the people understand it. We'll be leaving very soon. And if France or some other country wants to get oil or gas, they'll go up through the Strait and Hormuz Strait. They'll go right up there and they'll be able to fend for themselves. Look, problem with the Strait, a guy can take a mine, drop it in the water, and say, oh, it's unsafe. It's not like you're taking out an army or you're taking out a country or they can drop it. Or you can take a machine gun from the shore and shoot a few bullets at a ship. Or maybe an over-the-shoulder missile, small missiles. That's not for us. That'll be for France. That'll be for whoever's using the Strait. But I think when we leave, probably that's all cleared up.
No kidding. When you leave, Donald, the Strait of Hormuz will be all cleared up. As soon as you leave, you're the one who shut it down with your war, and you are the one who will open it up with your surrender in your war. This program has resisted the edge of the seat coverage about every movement of each aircraft carrier that is headed to the Middle East or the latest announcement of the number of troops being moved toward the Middle East, because those announcements have never once included the commitment of the kind of forces, the number of forces that would be needed to invade Iran. And no, 50,000 troops is not enough to invade a country of 91 million people. That's a little bit bigger than the New York City Police Department. So no, that's not enough. And Donald Trump knows that all those announcements he's made of troop movements are not enough. Iran knows that they're not enough. Donald Trump's defense secretary knows that. Moving 50,000 troops is a stunt so that Donald Trump can pretend, when reporters ask about what they like to call boots on the ground, that he has options when he does not have any options, and he knows it. And so Donald Trump pre-announced his surrender tonight with reporters when he also eliminated what has been the edge of the seat speculation indulged in other corners of the news media about whether Donald Trump would send in soldiers and Marines to get in there and seize Iran's uranium stockpile so they won't ever have the raw material necessary again to make a nuclear weapon. And remember, Donald Trump's stated objective at the beginning of his war was that Iran would never, ever be able to have a nuclear weapon. And now Donald Trump has surrendered on that objective.
In a fairly short period of time, we'll be finished. They will not be able to do a nuclear weapon for years. And when they are ready, maybe in a long time from now, able to do a nuclear weapon, you'll have a president that will be like me in that he will go there and he'll knock the hell out of them again, because they cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Okay. So we've gone from unconditional surrender to some years from now, another president is going to have to do the same thing, and that other president will be just like me, Donald Trump. No, Donald, there will not be another president like you. And so Donald Trump is ending his war with, as was reasonably predicted here and elsewhere from the start of his war, absolutely nothing to show for it. The same crushing dictatorial regime is in place. And every single thing Donald Trump has done with Iran since he first became president has made the situation worse for the world and for the people of Iran. Secretary of State John Kerry negotiated the deal that Donald Trump has failed to negotiate with Iran, in which Iran put in writing that they would not develop a nuclear weapon. Secretary of State Kerry brought that deal back to President Obama, complete with a mechanism for monitoring that deal, thereby accomplishing the single greatest diplomatic negotiation of the nuclear age. A singular achievement in the history of foreign policy anywhere in the world. And Donald Trump ripped it up. The Kerry-Obama nuclear deal with Iran, co-signed by our oldest allies, France and the United Kingdom, along with Germany and China, and Russia. Yes, Russia. No one has been able to get all of those countries to agree on anything since then. And Donald Trump will never get those countries to agree on anything. The stock market and the price of gas have been in control of Donald Trump's war from the start. And so now, with the stock market suffering its worst quarter in 4 years, Donald Trump is doing a very good job of sounding like the hopeless loser of his own war. In a phone call with CBS earlier today, when he was asked about the possibility of somehow removing Iran's enriched uranium stockpile, which was an objective of his war, he actually said, I don't even think about it. I just know that, that's so deeply buried, it's going to be very hard for anybody. First, it was an objective of Donald Trump's war. And then, in his surrender, I don't even think about it. That is how a madman wages war in the 21st century.